Hey, I'm ZombieJohnny, and it's a beautiful sunny day outside, and here I am, inside, editing a video. Today we're going to be taking a look at a video game that I really struggled to do. We're going 4 for 4 on this one. This is another Final Fantasy review. This, Final Fantasy 13. I've always been curious as to why people feel that this is the worst Final Fantasy game. Is it the gameplay? Is it the story? Is it the voice acting? In this review, I'm going to try and cover all those bases, and I'm going to give my opinion on the game. Good, bad, or ugly. When I told some of my friends that I was playing Final Fantasy 13, they gave me a puzzled look and asked, why? Well, I'm going to try and figure out why. The game is directed by Motomu Toriyama, who has been a part of multiple Final Fantasy games, including the event planner for Final Fantasy VII and the director of Final Fantasy X2. The characters were done by none other than Tetsuya Nomura. Once again, I still enjoy his character designs, but these ones seem a little bit more Nomura-y. The music was composed by Masashi Hamauzu. His name might not sound familiar, but his music will. He co-composed the music of Final Fantasy X with Nobuo Uematsu, the godfather of Final Fantasy music. There is a fairly large cast of characters in this game. In the first hour, you are introduced to Lightning, Saz, Snow, Vanilla, and Hope, not to mention all the NPC characters that aid you in the first section. Later, you meet Fang, and she joins your party as well. One of the first big things that I noticed is that there are save points everywhere. Every second hallway you enter, there's a save point. It really takes the difficulty of the game down quite a bit. I found myself not even touching them because it was literally moments between the last save point that I touched. Instead of having save points every 10 feet, they should have just had an autosave feature. During the start of the game, they play some really beautifully done cinematics. The shift from cinematic to gameplay wasn't as jarring as I thought it would be. They blended that quite well. Actually, the graphics in this game are pretty darn good. They actually hold up quite well in this day and age. They might look even better in the possibility that they do a remaster. Not saying that they will, but come on! It would look great! When I got into my first battle in the game, I was thrown off by what happened. Instead of having just an open battle system like Final Fantasy XII, you actually go into a battle screen when you approach enemies. This is a huge step backwards in my opinion. I don't know why video games, especially RPGs, started using a ranking system at the end of your battle. What purpose does it serve? It doesn't force you into being a better player. It doesn't really mean anything. The game just forcing you to beat the enemies the way that it wants you to. If you win the battle, you can move on in the story. So it really adds nothing to the game in any form. When you're in a battle, you have no control over the other characters, but there is a feature called the Paradigm Shift that is introduced a couple chapters in. The Paradigm Shift sets characters into a certain battle pattern, such as healing, magic, dispels, and physical attacks. It's sort of like the Gambit system, but your team members do their own thing with a set move list that goes with the paradigm you assign to them. They take care of you, your team, and themselves. Instead of micromanaging your team on every move, they move on their own. Truthfully, it's kind of nice. The battle system keeps you on your toes as well. Being able to switch paradigms on a moment's notice to keep you and your party alive makes it quite action-packed, actually. Not bad, Square Enix. Not bad. One thing that is the bonus of this battle system is that when you use a healing item, it heals all your party members. It makes your life so easy when all you have to do is select one item and it heals everybody. Also, after every battle, your team is fully healed, so that's a big plus. The leveling system is sort of like the sphere grid. I always thought the sphere grid was not so great, but it's better than the license board. I'm not too sure what it reminds me of, but it's linear as well. You just use your experience points to follow a line and level up your stats. And that's about it. At least all the characters you don't use gain experience along with your main party, so you don't have to grind all of your characters. Okay, so, for some reason they use the word hope a lot in this game. This is confusing because there is a character named Hope. At one point, Lightning is talking to Hope about having hope and believing in hope. I was so lost as to what she was talking about, I just nodded my head and smiled like an old person who shut their hearing aid off. I found myself smiling and nodding a lot through this game. There's one part where Lightning literally says, "Worst birthday ever." At that point, I was done. The script is absolutely ridiculous. On that point, I'm going to make an attempt on explaining the story. The fal'Cie are the gods of the game. Many of them are named after some famous summons throughout the Final Fantasy series. Lissi are the human servants of the fal'Cie. Our main characters get turned into Lissi and have to fulfill their duties, which is called a focus. If they can't complete their focus, they get turned into zombie-like creatures. And if they complete their focus, they get turned into crystal and live forever. As a servant of the fal'Cie? Truthfully, I'm not too sure. Anyway, Lightning's sister gets turned into a crystal lassie and Snow vows to return her back into a person because they're in love and Snow is a stud. And that's where the adventure begins. Everyone has a limited time to turn themselves back or they die. Or live forever. Or something. They join forces and kick some ass. And they obviously don't turn themselves into zombies or crystal lassie. Come on, that's not even a spoiler. There are like 3 games in the 13 series. Okay, we've come to that point in the review. Let's talk about the linearity of the game. Overall, it's just one big long hallway after another. There are some small twists and turns, but it felt very claustrophobic during the whole of the game. You hardly ever interact with anyone. You never get to set foot in a town or city to interact with anyone anyway. You hardly ever see actual daylight or a skyline in this game. Your save point is your shop where you buy things and upgrade your weapons and obviously save. So that completely eliminates interacting with the shopkeeper. You don't get to change your party until chapter 8 or 9. You don't even have a full party until chapter 8 or 9. You keep getting split up and having to fight endless waves of enemies down a straight line for like 80% of the game. In my opinion, they have taken all of your freedom away. Instead of holding your hand, they're pushing you in a stroller. They even give you a mini-map for a straight-ahead hallway. Why? Overall, the game seemed to have quite positive reviews, and I will give it some positive nods. First, it's got a great soundtrack. Hamauzu's music is a welcome fresh face in the franchise, ranging from small piano pieces, symphonic pieces, to catchy jazz tunes. Second, the battle system, though boring at times, can be full of action and I feel it had a great pace and keeps you entertained. Third, and the biggest nod, is the graphics. Damn! They look great. The cinematic pieces are wonderful and the quality isn't lost when you jump into the gameplay. In the end, Final Fantasy XIII is an interesting addition to the series. They tried some things and I give them props for it because how can you have progression if you don't try new things? And I'm never going to play this game again. I would truthfully suggest watching someone do a Let's Play compared to actually playing it yourself. Maybe even just a synopsis or cinematic compilation to catch all the story pieces, but there is real no need to play it at this point. The only reason why, in my opinion, is that the game feels too long and drawn out, because of it never taking that next step out of the tutorial feeling gameplay. To me, it feels like Twilight Town from Kingdom Hearts 2. The whole game is Twilight Town. It should be called Final Fantasy XIII Twilight Town for 30 plus hours. I am at the point now where I am so damn close to beating the game, and I can't bring myself to play anymore. I started getting bored and running through areas instead of fighting enemies, so now I've got to backtrack to an area where the enemies aren't so overpowered and grind some levels. It's been such a long haul with this game. Truthfully, I believe that Final Fantasy XIII Trilogy had the same problem that Final Fantasy XV had. It went through development hell, possibly because the game was much too ambitious, possibly because they might be trying to top the last Final Fantasy experience by making the game so much more grandiose, and even possibly there's too much expectations riding on the shoulders of Square Enix. In that case, do the fans overhype the games and expect too much from the developers? I'm not sure, but it's kind of a push and pull struggle with this series. So, in my opinion, is that the game is not bad. But not good, not bad. It's a game. I'm gonna go on a bit of a rant here, but just bear with me. A lot of people have shit on the Final Fantasy series for its past installments. Well, apparently the online games are held to high esteem in the MMO community because they're really good. I said it in my Final Fantasy XII review that Final Fantasy XI is one of the games that I had always dreamed of playing, and apparently Final Fantasy XIV is a really great update to the Final Fantasy MMO series. Now, as I was saying, there are a lot of people who shit on the Final Fantasy series, especially 13 and 15. Though both of these games had their problems, they were still moving forward in an age where being able to control everything around you is the only worthwhile style of gaming. Can you imagine going back to the Final Fantasy roots? Can you imagine gamers of today picking up Final Fantasy 15 and it has an ATB-based battle system where people have to wait their turn to attack? People of today don't have that kind of attention span. They want instant action and they want it now and they want to feel gratified for it. I enjoy old RPGs because that's what I grew up on. But they don't stand a chance in today's day and age. That playstyle is now only meant for a niche market. It doesn't give them that instant gratification that gamers of today are looking for. In an age of gigantic open world games that seem to have endless possibilities as to what you can do in them, this game was nice, but only for a short time. Then it started to drag and it wasn't fun anymore. But for that moment, I stepped away from those giant open world video games that seem to be bigger and bigger every year, and there are so many of them that nobody has time to play them all. It was just a nice, refreshing walk through a hallway. So anyway, thank you for sticking around for my rant. And that's going to be the end of my Final Fantasy game reviews for now. You know what I've got to do? I've got some comic book reviews to complete.